G'day and welcome. How you doing? Good to have you here in our weekly chat time. So today we're talking about life is easier than you think. So ultimately it's your questions that create where we go with this. So shoot me your questions, shoot me your ideas, what it is you want to learn. You know, how to be successful at life is not the easiest thing to understand. It takes quite a bit of time, it takes quite a bit of energy, and learning how to create a successful life is something that most people never actually do. So, but you know, as I've always said, if you want to be good at something, you got to study it. If you want to be good at a certain thing, you have to study it. So when you look at life, studying how to be successful in life is not actually that complex. I still remember back to, what was I, 16 years of age, and I won the Rotary Youth Leadership Award in my school. I was on the debate team, and because I was on the debate team, a parent of one of the kids who was in Rotary saw me speaking and said, you know, you should try for this award. And I did, and I won it. And they sent me away for a weeks-long training on how to be a leader, how to be successful, how to do all that stuff. And it started my passion for learning outside of school, because obviously learning in school is one thing, but learning outside of school is really where the results come about when it comes to this thing. So this whole thing of studying success came for me at 16. I was lucky enough at 16 years of age to really understand that. At 16, I fell in love with this idea of studying success. I fell in love with the idea of making sure that you know, everybody got the opportunity to learn in my world. And so when I sat down and started thinking about being successful, it started with reading of the books. And I remember at 16 going and visiting Jim Rohn, James Rohn. He would have been 90 this past week. One of the greatest mentors I ever had. I got to meet him twice in my life. And one of the things that happened when I met Jim Rohn is my yearn to learn became massive. I realized that if I was to continually learn, if I became a massive learner, then I would become a massive earner. If I studied success, then I could emulate success. And I think that was sort of a big part of it for me, is that if I studied it and understood it, then I could definitely be a part of it. So, and so with success, and this is why we have this day here today. So I started studying, and I think the first 3 books that I read, other than Mr. Rohn's 7 Key Principles, I think I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Richest Man in Babylon, and The Magic of Thinking Big. Or Think and Grow Rich, actually. Think and Grow Rich was the other one. They were the first 3 books that I read. And when you sit down and you think, okay, what is going to change in a 16-year-old's life when they understand the philosophies of success, the principles of success, the teachings of Jim Rohn, of Zig Ziglar, of all of these great teachers very early on in my career or very early on in my life? And so it really comes back to you and saying, okay, at what point do you want to learn success principles? At what point do you want to understand the principles of success? So today we're going to go into several of those principles and start to help you understand what it is that how success happens. Where we're going to start is by the understanding of goals. Okay, so dreams and goals. I want you to think about, for you, where are you at on your dream and goal reality check? So give yourself a score. In fact, type it in for me. What is your score on your documentation of your dreams? For me, what am I right now? Dreams, I would say I'm about a 7 at this point because I've achieved a bunch. Goals, I would say I'm about I was going to say an 8, but I've got to say 7 because I haven't got some clear goals in fitness at the moment. So yeah, what are your dreams? What are your goals? What's your score out of 10 for your clarity? Now, here's what happens. When you set the dream or when you set the goal, there is a magic that starts to happen. It is that the right things and the right places are put in front of you to help you learn, help you understand, help you grow. So when you think about, if you set a goal, the speed of learning around that goal determines the speed of that goal becoming a reality, because we need to be very blunt about one thing. If you have not achieved a goal, it is simply because you don't know how to achieve that goal. And people say, well, you know, people know how to lose weight. Not really. You know, they don't know how to change their eating habits, or they don't know how to do the certain things, or they don't know how they'll find the time, or they don't know how to allocate the time. So when you think about achieving your goals, you've got to grow into those goals. And so when I sit down with anyone, I'm coaching people in my purpose workshop. I do a 2-day workshop around this with people. And one of the things you have to look at is, what is the gap between your goal and where you're at currently. If you sit down and say, okay, my goal is X, and currently I'm at Y. Okay, so if your goal and your reality are different, it's because there is a knowledge gap, there's a plan gap, and there's an action gap. And the action won't happen until the knowledge is there. So we've got to make sure that we build that knowledge base to be able to get that moving and get that happening for you. So as you think about, look at those goals that you have, and if there's a goal that you have that you haven't achieved yet, you've got to ask yourself, you know, which one? So when you sit down and start thinking about the level of growth that you need, what level of growth are you looking at for you in order to achieve your goals? How much learning is there involved? How many new skills do you need? How many new belief structures? How many new ways of thinking are you going to have to build? Will your values have to shift? You know, because sometimes I see a values conflict in people, and that's all explained in 30X Life. But if you start sitting back and saying, okay, how do I actually turn my dreams and goals into a reality? The simplest way to do that is to say, okay, what I've got to do is actually turn my dreams and goals into a reality by turning me into the person that would achieve that reality. I have to, and Jim Rohn put it best when he said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work hard on you, then you create those results. When you build yourself, that's a big part of it. So you've got to build yourself. So most people are in the 5 to 7 range. Great. So what that means is that now we actually have to sit down and plan, how do we grow? And that's a big part of it. In what I always challenge people to is, where do you need to personally grow? And so let's examine the 3 areas of growth that we need to understand, I guess, so that we can create that level of success. The first level of growth is that of belief structures, values and beliefs. So it's a thinking change, okay? So do you need to challenge your old thinking? Like, you might have an old way of thinking that is something along the lines of, you know, it's harder for a rich person to get into heaven than it is to get a camel through the eye of a needle. You know, you went to a good religious school and they taught you that stuff. Maybe there's some old beliefs, some old ways of thinking. Let's check a values check. So imagine one of your highest values is acceptance. Okay, you want to be accepted by others, and you're sitting there with acceptance as a high value, and you say, okay, I want to go out and become successful, and you go out and you choose to do something in the realm of business, but you don't ask for the sale, you don't ask for the money, you don't ask people to do things, because you'd rather be accepted than rejected, and that values conflict can lead to a success conflict. Second area where you're going to need growth is that of skills, okay? So your skill set that you're going to need to get better at, things that you do, things you have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, are going to need to change. So where are you going to gain those extra skills in order to make yourself better and therefore your life easier and your dreams and goals becoming a reality? And the third area is knowledge base. You know, knowledge base is one area that, you know, sitting here on the webinar with me, reading the books, doing the 30X courses, reading any book you can, watching any podcast you can. But that knowledge acquisition is a very big part of the growth rate. So if you look to the goals that you have and you look to the success level of where you're currently at, the distinction around the two is actually quite simple. The distinction around the two is there is a gap in either beliefs and values or skill set or knowledge base. And so every one of us needs to be very clear on where we need to grow in order to build ourselves for those goals. The more you get clear on where you need to grow, the easier it all becomes for you. So keeping that in mind is always going to be a big part of your success. Now, the growing into your goals is speed thing too. So the speed of learning, the speed of getting there is important. This is why I personally believe in coaching, because what happens is the speed of learning with coaching is far greater than the speed of learning by reading a book, or the speed of learning through going to an event is far greater than the speed of learning by watching a video. So there is that aspect to it. So asking questions, being asked questions, thinking on those sorts of things, it's all a part of how you actually build your success. Make certain that you sit back and look at the speed with which you want to get those goals to become a reality by asking yourself the question is, what is my speed of learning? How fast am I learning? How can I learn faster? And if I have to learn faster, what is going to be the methodology to do that? Because time after time after time, I see people wasting time by not learning enough. If you do the learning, then you do the earning. If you do the knowledge acquisition, then you do the rest of the work that allows you to achieve that level of success. So let's take, so let's move to the second stage of this whole thing of life is easier than you think. So the first one, making your goals a reality, grow into your goals, learn skills, belief changes, get a coach to speed up the learning or do the learning at events to speed up the learning, and therefore you will create that reality for yourself. Now, it's not the fastest way to guarantee success, but it is the way to actually guarantee success. If you just think about it from a perspective of, I'll just work harder, or, I'll just do more, it doesn't actually change, because you go back to the formula which we teach everywhere around, and that is the B times do equals have. So not only do you need to do more, you need to become more. You need the better behaviors, better beliefs. That B words are definitely a part of what creates the success for you out there into the marketplace. So keep that stuff moving, and that'll do it. Okay, so the second area of life being easier than you think, if you want a certain level, you have to play at that level. Okay, if you want a level of life, you have to play at that level of life. You can't do the work of a junior employee in your own business and expect to be making the high level. If you play the game at the highest levels, if you want to build success for yourself, you need to allocate those tasks to the people that are willing to do it for that rate, and you need to focus on tasks that are much better paying than those sorts of tasks. For me, I first started out with this. I said anything that I could pay someone $25 an hour or less, I would hand off. So, the cleaning, the washing, the doing all of those tasks, if I could pay someone less than $25 an hour, I would hand off those tasks. Now, in the beginning, of course, I had to then allocate my time to doing income-producing tasks and allow myself to have all of that sort of stuff. So keep that in mind as you do this whole process of being the person that you need to be. Sometimes it's not about growing, sometimes it's about stopping, sometimes it's about letting go of those things. So what's the one thing you should stop doing? What's the one thing you should let go of? What's the thing that you're investing X number of hours per day or per week doing, that it would be better for you to actually stop doing those things and pay someone to do those things? If you type it in for me, that'd be great, because I'd love to have some conversations around these things. What are some of the things that you need to stop doing? Because success isn't always about starting new things. Success isn't always about adding. Most of the time I find success is more to do with actually stopping doing certain things, actually no longer doing those things, getting away from doing stuff. That to me is where I see a lot more success coming to people. I'll give you 3 examples of that sort of stuff. Is there a place you need to stop going because that place generates a negative behavior or a negative success factor for you? Or is there a group of people or a certain person that you hang out with that you need to stop hanging out with in order to move forward and be able to move forward? And it might not be not stop hanging out with them at all, but reduce the number of hours or days that you're investing time with those people or that group of people. And so when you think about places you need to stop going, people you need to stop doing, is there a habit you need to stop? A bad habit that you need to stop doing, and you need to create a methodology of stopping that. Because oftentimes, and I see this a lot, where people give up a lot because of one little thing, rather than giving up that one little thing to get a lot. So if you can give up that one little thing and get a lot, then it makes a lot of sense to do that. I was working with one of the things in 30X I talk about in there, because of my experience of being held up at gunpoint and then being in a mass shooting when I was at Route 91. And so by being in that and going and doing counseling and realizing the post-traumatic stress disorder, the PTSD, but then I stayed with that coach and have worked with him on many things about, what is the little things that you need to give up in order to gain massive changes in your life? What's that habit or that thing that you stick with that makes that a reality? What's your suggestion for young people looking for success? Okay, I'll just give you the same feedback Mr. Rohn gave me. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. And the third one was read a book a week for the rest of your life. And now with audiobooks, it's so easy to read a book a week for the rest of your life because someone reads it to you. While you're exercising or while you're traveling or while you're doing all sorts of things, you can have someone reading to you. I still remember Mr. Rohn would talk about having your car become a mobile university. So use your car as your university, and it changes a whole lot in your life. So that was a big one. View your youth as a powerful thing. I remember when I was younger, I sort of had a little bit of a belief that, maybe I couldn't do it because I was young, or maybe I couldn't get there because I was young. And I remember reading a passage that sort of talked about the fact that what I should actually be focused on is my life, that youth is power. Youth is flexibility. Youth is there's so many great things about youth that I could do it. You could play that for any, being tall is great, being short is great. Whatever you are, it's a powerful thing for you. So that was sort of a big part of that aspect for it. The second question, I'm going to keep that question for next week when we talk about wealth. This other one in here. All right, so when you are approaching success and you sabotage yourself, okay, because a lot of people do this. They see their success, or they start being successful, and they start doing all the things, like they've lost the weight and they do the losing weight, and then they go into a sabotage mode of putting on the weight again, of eating bad again, of doing the bad behaviors. Or they have started to achieve financial success because they were disciplined and made the sales and did the work, and then all of a sudden, now that they're starting to see success, they start to self-sabotage and stop making the calls and stop doing the work that led to their success. Listen, that sabotage is really about an identity build. That sabotage is really about that. Let me see if I can grab the link for 30X Life, because I do a whole video on this one in there. Actually, let me see if I can find, there's a special one. I can put you to the website, or I can find you the special deal for this. Let me see if I can find Gona and get her to find me that link so that you can actually take a look at it, because there's a whole half-hour segment on this in that. So it's really powerful for us to understand that sabotage comes about because we're achieving more success than we feel and think we are deserving of. And whether that's because our identity hasn't shifted, or whether that's because our values haven't shifted or our beliefs haven't shifted, it's really it's really as simple as that. Hope you've had a good session today. Look forward to chatting with you again next week. Make sure you invite people into the Billionaire in Training platform so that we can have more of your friends on this wealth journey with you. Take care, enjoy, see you on 30X, and bye for now.